Elena Voss had practiced losing for exactly 3 weeks. Not losing in the way most people lost, stumbling, forgetting, falling apart under pressure. She practiced losing cleanly, losing at precisely the right moment, with precisely the right amount of effort still visible on her face, so that it would look like she had simply run out of steam rather than out of will. She stood at the edge of the Ashwood training grounds on the morning of the Luna trial and rolled her shoulders back. The bleachers along the hill were already filling, families spread out blankets, children pressed against the rope barriers. Her father stood near the front with his arms crossed and his jaw tight, the way it always was on important days. She loved him. She hated that she was about to disappoint him. "You ready?" said a voice behind her. She turned. Marcus Ashwood stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at her the way he looked at most things these days, like he was already deciding what to do with them. He had been her closest friend at 12. At 24, after 2 years as alpha, he had become someone she barely recognized. There was nothing warm left in the way he looked at people. Everything was calculation. "I'm ready," Elena said. He studied her for a moment. "Don't embarrass me out there." She smiled, and it didn't reach her eyes. "I never do." The first 2 stages went the way everyone expected. The foot race through the outer packlands took 22 minutes. Elena finished first by a full 40 seconds, and the crowd cheered with the kind of energy that told her they had already decided how this day would end. In the diplomatic challenge, a negotiation puzzle staged between 2 actors playing rival families, she navigated it in 11 moves when the previous record was 15. She heard murmuring in the bleachers. She heard Marcus's advisor whisper something about her being exceptional. She kept her face calm and her hands steady. The sparring round was last. Her opponent was Sarah, a capable fighter from the eastern end of the pack, chosen by the elders for her skill. Elena respected Sarah. That made what came next harder. They circled each other in the ring. Sarah was quick, light on her feet, smart about angles. Elena matched her for the first 2 minutes, and the crowd leaned forward. Then, in the 3rd minute, Elena found the opening she had been waiting for, a half-second gap in Sarah's guard on the left side, wide enough to end the match. Her body knew what to do. 3 weeks of instinct and training screamed at her to move. She pulled the strike. She shifted her weight wrong. Sarah caught the opening instead, swept Elena's feet, and Elena hit the ground. She stayed down for 1 breath, 2, long enough for the elder to raise his hand. The silence that followed was the loudest thing she had ever heard. Then the crowd exhaled, confused and murmuring. Then Marcus's voice, sharp and carrying across the grounds. "She lost," he said it like an accusation. She actually lost. Elena stood up slowly and brushed the grass from her knee. She did not look at Marcus. She did not look at her father. She kept her eyes on the middle distance and walked toward the edge of the ring, with her chin level and her hands loose at her sides. She had expected to feel relief. She was surprised to find that she mostly felt tired. She didn't make it 10 steps past the rope barrier before someone fell into pace beside her. She knew who it was before she looked. She had noticed him during the foot race, a tall figure at the far edge of the grounds, standing apart from the Ashwood observers, with the stillness of someone who was watching everything and reacting to none of it. Damian Voss, Alpha King of the Kingsley Pack, present under the terms of the Inter-Pack Treaty that required a neutral witness at all formal trials. No relation to her, despite the shared name. The pack elders had made a few jokes about that when the treaty was signed. "That was a choice," he said. His voice was even, not a question. Elena kept walking. "I don't know what you're talking about." In the 3rd minute, you had a clean opening on her left. You've been training your left side finishes for 2 years, based on your footwork pattern. You saw it, and you pulled back. He paused. "So it was a choice." She stopped walking. She turned to look at him properly for the first time. He was younger than she expected, maybe 28, with a calm face and dark eyes that held no smugness, just attention. He wasn't trying to catch her. He was just stating what he had seen. "What do you want?" she said. "I'm invoking the Vallon Clause." She stared at him. The Vallon Clause was old. Most people thought it had been retired along with the ceremonial laws from 2 centuries ago. It allowed a rival alpha to formally claim an unclaimed wolf in the immediate aftermath of a trial, a law originally written to prevent pack hoarding of unbonded members. It had not been used in living memory. "You cannot be serious," she said. "I am." He said it simply, without drama. "You're unclaimed. The trial is concluded. I'm claiming you as my Luna." He glanced back toward the grounds. "Unless you'd prefer to go back and accept the consolation offer Marcus is about to make, which based on his current expression, I expect will involve a private arrangement that gives him what he wants, and phrases it as generosity." Elena looked back. Marcus was already moving toward her with two of his senior advisors at his side, and he had the look of a man preparing a speech. She looked at Damian. "I am furious with you," she said. "That's reasonable," he said. "This is not a rescue." "No," he agreed. "It's a clause in a legal document. What you do with it is your own business." She was angry. She was also, underneath the anger, thinking clearly for the first time all morning. "Fine," she said. The eruption that followed was immediate and loud, and lasted most of the afternoon. Kingsley territory was 3 hours east, through a stretch of pine forest that opened onto a wide valley. The pack house sat at the northern edge of it, large, well-kept, and nothing like the fortress that Ashwood had become under Marcus. Damian gave Elena a room with a window that looked out over the valley, and told her she was free to move through the house as she liked. He did not assign her an escort. He did not ask her to attend anything. That surprised her more than anything else so far. On the second evening, she found him in the kitchen at an unreasonable hour, reading a land survey report and eating cold rice from a bowl. "You're not what I expected," she said, sitting down across from him. He looked up. "What did you expect?" "Someone who needed a political prize." He set down the report. "I need leverage. There's a difference." He said it without apology. Ashwood has been crossing the northern boundary lines for 8 months. Small incursions. Nothing big enough to trigger a formal complaint, but consistent. Having you here gives me standing to open a formal review. You're using me. I was honest about that within 48 hours of meeting you, he said, which puts me ahead of most people in your recent experience. She couldn't argue with that. There's something else, she said. She had been thinking about it since the drive over. Marcus isn't just crossing boundary lines. He's been suppressing lower-ranking pack members, controlling their work placements, their housing, who they're allowed to bond with. It's been building for 2 years. She paused. That's why I failed the trial. Not because I was afraid, because I wasn't willing to stand next to him and let people believe I approved. Damian was quiet for a moment. Can you document it? Some of it. I have records from my father's office that I kept copies of, communications that didn't add up, member complaints that were filed and then disappeared. He looked at her steadily. Then let's document it properly. The weeks that followed were strange and oddly peaceful. Elena worked. She organized the records she had brought with her and began building a formal account of Marcus's internal conduct, working alongside Damian's pack historian and 2 of his council members, who were thorough and exact and treated her contributions as though they mattered. Nobody asked her to perform. Nobody watched her too carefully or spoke to her in the overly careful way people used when they were managing someone rather than talking to them. She watched Damian in those weeks. She watched how he ran things. He was not a gentleman. He had authority and he used it. But he was fair in a way that looked effortless because he had built systems around fairness rather than relying on his own goodwill on any given day. His pack's lower-ranking members ate in the same room as the council. Young wolves were allowed to challenge decisions formally, without punishment. She didn't tell him she noticed these things, but she noticed. One afternoon, she found a young pack member, 14, maybe 15, sitting alone behind the storage outbuilding with a badly wrapped ankle. He said he hadn't wanted to bother anyone. Elena sat down in the dirt next to him and rewrapped it properly with the kit she had learned to carry after years as a beta's daughter. Damian found them there 20 minutes later, and something shifted briefly in his expression before he schooled it back to neutral. You didn't have to do that, he told her later. I know, she said. That's what doing it means. He was quiet for a moment. Then, the claim can be dissolved, formally, cleanly, no consequence to you. I want you to know that's a real option. She looked at him. Why are you telling me that now? Because I want you to stay, and I realized I hadn't actually asked. The honesty of it was so plain that it caught her off guard. Ask then, she said. Would you stay? Not under a clause, not as leverage, as my Luna, because you choose to be. She thought about it, really thought, the way she hadn't been allowed to think about her own future in years. Yes, she said, but I'm not done with what we started. I want Marcus to answer for what he's done. So do I, Damian said. Marcus came to them before they could go to him. He filed a formal challenge 2 weeks later, demanding Elena's return and questioning the validity of Damian's claim on technical grounds. He also sent a private message, delivered through an intermediary, informing Elena that if she chose to make any of Ashwood's internal matters public, he would tell everyone that she had sabotaged the Luna trial deliberately, framing it as a betrayal of her pack rather than an act of conscience. Elena read the message twice. Then she set it down on the table in front of Damian and the council. He thinks this is a threat, she said. It's not. It's the opening. The formal hearing was held on neutral ground, witnessed by 3 neighboring pack councils and a tribunal of independent elders. Marcus arrived with his advisors and his most confident posture, clearly expecting to control the room. Elena walked in and sat across from him and told the truth. She said she had failed the trial on purpose. She said it clearly, without flinching. She explained why, not in anger, but in plain language, walking through 2 years of documented decisions Marcus had made that violated the old pack laws protecting lower-ranking members. She presented the records. She named incidents with dates. She let the documents speak alongside her. Marcus interrupted 3 times. Each time, the tribunal asked him to wait. He looked at her with real rage then, the kind that came from feeling understood rather than misunderstood, because she had always seen what he was becoming, and he had always known it. She's lying, he said. She's been compromised by Kingsley influence. The records predate my involvement with Kingsley by 18 months, Elena said, calmly. The room was quiet. In the end, it was Ashwood's own council that moved first. 3 of the 5 senior elders submitted a formal motion of no confidence before the tribunal had even concluded. By evening, Marcus had been stripped of his alpha status pending a full internal review. He did not go quietly, but he went. Elena's father found her afterward, standing outside in the cooling air, and for a long moment he said nothing. Then he said, "I thought you had given up." "I know," she said. "I'm sorry I couldn't explain it then." He was quiet for another moment. Then he put his hand on her shoulder, and that was enough. 6 months later, Elena stood with Damian on the boundary line between the 2 territories, the northern edge, where the pine trees ended, and the valley began. It was a quiet morning, no ceremony, no observers. A small group of young wolves from both packs were running drills together on the flat ground below, part of a new joint training program that had come out of the reformed treaty. They changed the trial, Elena said. It wasn't a question. She had heard the announcement that morning. The new Ashwood Council voted on it last week, Damian said. No more elimination format, no single candidate. It's collaborative now, assessing a pair together or letting candidates put themselves forward voluntarily. Elena watched the young wolves below. A girl with red hair was outpacing everyone else and grinning about it. Good, Elena said. Damian glanced at her. Any regrets? She considered the question honestly. She thought about the morning of the trial, the weight of everyone's expectations pressing down on her shoulders like something physical. She thought about hitting the ground and choosing to stay there. None, she said. I passed the only trial that mattered. He didn't ask her to explain. He understood. They stood there a little while longer, watching the valley fill with morning light, and it was the quietest and most certain Elena had felt in years.